Alright, I never thought I'd be the guy posting here, but I don't know what to do. I'm David, 42, married to Sally, 39, for 15 years. We've got 3 kids, a mortgage, and what I thought was a rock-solid life. You know, the kind where you bust your back providing, you build something real, and you think you know the person sleeping next to you. But now? I feel like an idiot. It started a few weeks ago. I work early shifts at GM, so I'm usually out by 5 a.m. That means I'm in bed early most nights. But on this particular night, I woke up thirsty. No big deal, right? Just gonna grab some water and head back to sleep. As I'm walking past the living room, I hear Sally's voice. She's on the phone, whispering and giggling in a way that immediately makes my stomach twist. I stop in my tracks. I know. I can't believe we got away with it either, she says, her voice light and breathy. Then the kicker, we have to try that thing again before the wart comes off. What? I don't move. I just stand there, heart pounding. My brain tries to make sense of what I just heard. The wart? What does that even mean? And why does she sound like a flirty teenager? Then, like a brick to the face, I remember something. A couple of months ago, I was at the bar with my buddy John. He had a few drinks in him and was talking about some stupid skin thing. His wife was nagging him to get removed. I didn't think much of it at the time, just the usual married guy complaints. But now, Sally's words echo in my head. Before the wart comes off. I step back into the shadows and listen. Sally laughs again, softer this time. I'll figure something out. Just be patient, okay? I don't know how long I stood there. Maybe a minute. Maybe 10. But eventually, I turn around, walk back to the bedroom, and lay down next to her like nothing happened. I don't confront her. Not yet. Instead, I start paying attention. To everything. And that's when things really start falling apart after that night. I couldn't shake the feeling that something was off. You know when you get that gut feeling, the kind that tells you something ain't right, but you don't want to believe it? Yeah, that was me. I wanted to tell myself I misheard her. That wart meant nothing. That Sally wasn't the type. But the thing is, once you hear something like that, you start noticing things. And man, did I start noticing. For starters, her phone. Sally used to leave it on the kitchen counter, charging overnight. Now? It's always on her. In her pocket, in her purse, face down if it's on the table. And she's texting, a lot. I bring it up casually one night. Who you always texting these days? I ask, keeping my voice light. She barely looks up. Debbie. Debbie, her best friend. Or at least, that's what she says. Then there's her schedule. Sally's always been social, but lately, it's ramped up. A girls' night, last weekend. A last-minute dinner, with Debbie 2 days later. And get this, she suddenly wants to start going on solo morning walks. Says she needs to clear her head. Clear her head from what? I don't accuse. Not yet. Instead, I start testing the waters. Maybe I'll join you on one of your walks, I say one morning. She freezes for half a second before forcing a smile. You? At 6 a.m.? Please. She laughs, shaking her head. You'd rather sleep. I shrug. I could go. But she doesn't answer. Just ties her shoes a little faster and heads out the door. Then there's John. My buddy. My friend. The guy I've known since high school, who's been over for BBQs, whose wife I know. He's been acting weird too. At racquetball last week, he was off his game. Kept fumbling shots, looking distracted. Then after the game when we're grabbing a drink, I mention Sally in passing, just something about how she's been busy lately. John nearly chokes on his beer. Starts coughing, pounding his chest. You good? I ask. Yeah, he says, eyes darting away. Just went down the wrong pipe. The hell was that? I don't say anything else, but that feeling in my gut? It's getting worse. I'm not ready to admit what I think is happening. Not yet. Because if I do, if I really accept what my brain is screaming at me, then that means my marriage, my life, my family. It's not what I thought it was. And I'm not sure I'm ready for that, alright? So at this point, I've got that gnawing feeling in my stomach every time I look at Sally. Every time her phone buzzes. Every time she suddenly has to go somewhere. But I'm not the kind of guy to just explode without knowing for sure. I need proof. So, I start watching. First thing I notice? She's real careful with her showers now. Used to be, she'd leave the door cracked, steam rolling out while she hummed some 90s pop song. Now? It's locked. Always. One morning, after she forgot to kiss me before heading out on her walk, I get up and check the bathroom trash. I don't even know what I'm looking for, but I find something anyway, wiped lipstick stains on a tissue. Now, I know my wife. She never puts on makeup before a workout. So why the hell is she putting on lipstick before her walk? That same day, I get bolder. I check her car when she gets home. Nothing obvious, but the seat, it's adjusted. Sally's not tall, but someone taller than her has been sitting in that driver's seat. I know, because I have to move it every time I drive her car. I say nothing. Later that night, I bring up John again. You hear from John lately? I ask casually, flipping through the channels. Sally barely glances up from her phone. No. Why? I shrug. Just hasn't been around much. Now, here's where it gets interesting. Instead of leaving it at that, she adds, way too quickly, he and Lisa are probably busy. I didn't ask about his wife, Lisa. But she made sure to throw her into the mix, like she's trying to remind me that John is married, so I wouldn't get any ideas. That's when I know. Not suspect. No. But I need something solid. Something I can't ignore. So, I start planning. I'm gonna catch them. And when I do, Sally won't be able to talk her way out of it, alright, so I know something's going on. I can feel it in my gut. But knowing and proving are two different things. And if Sally's really messing around with John, my friend, I need hard proof before I do anything. So, I make a plan. Sally's been taking her morning walks at the same time every day. And every time I offer to join, she brushes me off. So the next morning, instead of heading out to work like usual, I call in sick. I park my truck a few streets down, sit tight, and wait. Sure enough, right at 6 a.m., Sally steps out the front door. She's dressed in her workout leggings, hoodie, and lipstick. Not much, but enough. She doesn't stretch. Doesn't check her smartwatch. Just starts walking. I follow on foot, keeping my distance. She takes her usual path down the block, turns at the corner, and heads toward the park. For a second, I almost feel stupid. Maybe she is just walking. Maybe I'm losing it. Then I see his truck. John's. Parked at the far end of the lot, near the walking trail entrance. Sally doesn't hesitate. Doesn't even look around. Just beeline straight for it, opens the passenger door, and hops in. My stomach twists into a knot so tight I feel sick. I pull out my phone. Snap a quick picture. My hands are shaking so bad I almost drop it. They sit there for a minute. Talking, maybe. Or something else. I don't know. And honestly, I don't want to know. But I need more. So I walk closer, keeping behind the trees. Then, right as I get close enough to make out their faces through the windshield, Sally leans in. And she kisses him. Right there. In his truck. No hesitation. I feel like the ground just dropped out from under me. I don't move. I don't breathe. I just stand there, watching my wife kiss another man. Watching John, the guy I trusted, put his hand on her thigh like it's his to touch. I knew. But seeing it? It's different. It's real. I step back, my whole body cold. My mind is screaming at me to go over there, rip that door open, drag him out of that truck but I don't. Because I'm not ready for the explosion. Not yet. I need to think. I need to plan. And when I finally confront them, I want them trapped, so I saw it with my own eyes. Sally and John. Kissing. In his truck. Like they weren't wrecking two families in the process. But here's the thing, I don't rush in. I don't blow up. Because I know Sally. She's the kind of woman who could talk her way out of a plane crash. If I confront her with just one thing, she'll twist it. She'll cry. She'll make me the crazy one. No. I need more. I go back home before she does. Sit at the kitchen table, staring at the wall, fists clenched so hard my knuckles turn white. And when she walks through the door, all breathless from her walk, she gives me a sweet smile. "Morning, babe," she says, heading straight for the coffee machine like nothing just happened. I force myself to act normal. Morning. She hums as she pours herself a cup. No guilt. No hesitation. Just another ordinary day in her mind. It takes everything in me not to throw my coffee in the sink and tell her I know. But instead I ask, "How was your walk?" She doesn't even flinch. "Oh, you know. Same as always." Lies. And it makes my blood boil. That's when I realize, I need to dig deeper. So that night, while Sally's in the shower, door locked of course, I grab her phone. She used to be careless with it, but now she keeps it glued to her. Lucky for me, she leaves it charging on the nightstand while she showers. I pick it up. And, of course, it's locked. But Sally isn't exactly a tech genius. She's the kind of person who uses the same passcode for everything. So I take a guess, our anniversary. Nope. Her birthday. Nope. Then I try our oldest son's birthday. Bingo. The home screen lights up. And what do I see? A text notification at the top. From John. "John, had a great time this morning, can't wait for next time." I swallow the lump in my throat and open their messages. And what I find? It's worse than I expected. "Sally, God, I can't stop thinking about yesterday. I still feel you on me. John, you have no idea how bad I want you right now. Wish I could sneak over. Sally, you'd get me in trouble. John, I think you like a little trouble. I feel sick. Physically sick." I scroll further. The messages go back months. Morning texts. Late night, I miss you messages. Plans to meet up. And then, I see it. A message from Sally. "Sally, David's been acting weird lately. I think he's suspicious." John's reply. "John, he won't do anything. He trusts you too much. Just play it cool. They know I exist. They know what they're doing. And they do it anyway." I lock the phone and set it back on the nightstand. Right as I hear the shower turn off. I sit on the bed, hands shaking. Sally walks out, wrapped in a towel, smiling like nothing's wrong. "Hey babe," she says, running a towel through her hair. "You okay? You look pale." I force myself to nod. "Yeah. Just tired." But inside? I'm burning. And now, I know exactly what I have to do. I didn't sleep that night. How could I? Every time I closed my eyes, I saw those texts. "Still feel you on me. Wish I could sneak over." And worst of all, David's been acting weird. I think he's suspicious. Like I was some clueless idiot they could just laugh about. I wanted to wake her up right then. Shake her. Show her the messages. Watch her face crumble when she realized she was caught. But no. That wasn't good enough. Sally was a liar, a good one. If I confronted her too soon, she'd spin it, cry, make excuses. I needed to hit her with something she couldn't weasel out of. I needed to set a trap. The next morning, I acted normal. I kissed her goodbye before work. I texted her during the day like I always did. And after dinner, when she went to shower again with a locked door, I took my plan one step further. I bought a voice recorder. Nothing fancy. Just a small one I could hide in her car. If she was meeting John in there, I'd have proof. The next morning she left for her walk, and I followed again, this time from farther back. I watched her hop into John's truck, same as before. But I didn't get closer. I didn't need to. I had the recorder. She came home after an hour, humming, making coffee, acting like she didn't just spend the morning betraying me. I wanted to scream. Instead, I waited. That night, when she was asleep, I snuck out to her car, pulled the recorder from its hiding spot, and went back inside. My hands were shaking as I hit play. At first, just silence. A few car noises. Then, a door opening. Rustling. Then her voice. "Sally, you taste like coffee." I gripped the recorder so hard my knuckles cracked. "John, you're gonna get me addicted to morning walks." A soft laugh. Then, kissing sounds. I couldn't listen to more. I slammed the stop button, breathing heavy. That was it. That was everything. She couldn't lie her way out of this. She couldn't gaslight me, couldn't twist it into my fault. I had her. And now? Now, I was gonna end this. I had the proof. The texts. The recordings. The cold, disgusting truth. But I didn't just want to confront her. No, that'd be too easy. Too clean. Sally and John had spent months sneaking around, treating me like an idiot. If I just yelled at her in the kitchen, she'd cry, twist it, and somehow make me the bad guy. I wasn't letting that happen. So I planned something better. Something final. The first thing I did? I made copies of everything, the voice recordings, the screenshots of their texts. Put them on a flash drive, then backed them up on my work laptop. Hell, I even printed some out. I wasn't leaving any room for doubt. Then, I picked my moment. Our anniversary was coming up. 15 years. Sally had been going on and on about how we should do a little get-together. Just some close friends. She wanted to book a fancy restaurant, but I suggested something more intimate. A nice backyard barbecue. Just us, the kids, a few friends, including John and his wife, Lisa. Oh, I love that idea. Sally had said, smiling wide. Something simple, you know? Yeah. Simple. I invited a few close buddies, some of Sally's friends, and of course John and Lisa. Sally had no idea she was walking straight into her own execution. The night of the barbecue, everything was perfect. I grilled steaks, cracked open beers, laughed with my friends. Acted like the loving husband Sally thought I was. And John? Oh, he was relaxed. Sitting there, drinking my beer, eating my food, making small talk with Lisa like he wasn't screwing my wife behind her back. I kept looking at him, wondering how a man could do that. Sit across from someone he's betraying and smile. Sally was all over me that night, too. Wrapping her arms around my waist, sneaking little kisses on my cheek, playing the role of the devoted wife. I almost laughed. Halfway through the evening, I clinked my beer bottle against my plate to get everyone's attention. Hey everyone, I said, forcing a smile. First off, thanks for coming. Sally and I are really happy to have you all here for our 15-year anniversary. Everyone cheered. Sally beamed, squeezing my hand. I turned to her, looking her right in the eye. 15 years. Crazy, huh? You think you know someone after all that time? Sally laughed. Oh, come on, don't make it sound like a prison sentence. I chuckled. You're right. Marriage is built on trust, right? She nodded, smiling. Of course. I reached into my back pocket, pulled out the voice recorder, and clicked play. Sally's voice. You taste like coffee. The backyard went silent. Sally's smile froze. John, who'd been mid-sip of his beer, choked, coughing hard. Lisa furrowed her brows, looking between them. I let the recorder play for a few more seconds. The kissing sounds. The giggles. The undeniable proof. Then I hit pause and let the silence settle in. Sally's face drained of color. David. I held up a hand. Ah. Don't. She shut her mouth. Lisa was staring at John now. What the hell was that? John opened his mouth, closed it, then shot up from his chair. I can explain. Sit. Down. My voice was low, even. Dangerous. John sat. I pulled out my phone, clicking through the screenshots. I thought about confronting you in private, Sally. Thought maybe we could talk this out like adults. But then I realized, why should I protect you when you sure as hell didn't protect me? I turned the phone screen to Lisa. You should probably see these. Lisa took the phone. As soon as her eyes landed on the messages, her hands started shaking. Oh my God, she whispered. Oh my God. Sally reached for me. David, please. I stepped back. Don't. Just don't. Lisa suddenly launched her drink at John. It splashed across his shirt, beer dripping from his collar. You disgusting bastard, she shrieked. How dare you? John stood up fast, hands out. Lisa, listen. Don't you touch me, she snapped, shoving him hard. You know what? I hope she was worth it. Sally was still crying, still reaching for me. David, we can talk about this. I laughed. Actually laughed. Talk? You mean lie? Like you've been doing for months. She broke down sobbing, shaking her head. I didn't mean. I snapped. You kissed him. You texted him about how much you wanted him. How you had to be careful because I was getting suspicious. I pointed to John. You threw everything away for this loser? John's face turned red. Hey man, Shut up, I said coldly. You don't get to talk. You don't exist to me anymore. Lisa grabbed her purse, standing tall despite the tears running down her face. We're done, John. Done. She turned to me. David, I'm so sorry. I nodded, jaw tight. Me too. Then, she stormed off. John scrambled after her. Lisa, wait. Go to hell. Sally reached for me again, tears streaming. David, please, I love you. I looked at her. Really looked at her. This woman I'd built a life with. The mother of my kids. And for the first time in 15 years, I felt nothing. I took off my wedding ring. And I dropped it right at her feet. Not anymore. Then I walked inside, leaving her sobbing in the mess she created. I didn't stay to watch the full fallout. I walked inside, shut the door, and let the night unravel without me. From the window, I saw Lisa peel out of the driveway, John running after her like some desperate idiot. Sally was still outside, hands on her face, crying. My friends? Some of them looked shocked, some just uncomfortable. A few were whispering to each other, probably debating whether to leave or pretend like this wasn't the biggest train wreck they'd ever witnessed. I didn't care. I went straight to the bedroom and locked the door. Not that it would stop Sally, but I needed a barrier. Something to keep her away, even for a few minutes. Sure enough, it didn't take long. Bang, bang, bang. David, please let me in. Her voice was raw. Panicked. Please, we need to talk. I just sat on the bed, staring at the wall. She kept going. David, I love you. I made a mistake. That made me laugh. A mistake? A mistake was forgetting to pick up milk. A mistake was burning dinner. What she did. That was a choice. Over and over again. I didn't answer. Eventually, she gave up and slumped against the door, sobbing. I could hear her muttering to herself between gasps. I ruined everything. I ruined everything. Yeah. She did. The next morning, I woke up to silence. No knocking. No begging. I opened the door to find Sally sitting on the floor in the hallway, knees to her chest. Her eyes were red, her face swollen. She looked like she hadn't slept a minute. For a second, I almost felt bad. Almost. She looked up at me, eyes wide with hope. David. I want you out, I said flatly. Her whole body flinched. What? I want you out of this house. Today. She scrambled to her feet. No, please, please don't do this. We have a family. And you threw it away, I snapped. For what? A few cheap hookups with John? Sneaking around like a couple of teenagers? I shook my head. You disgust me. Tears spilled down her cheeks. It wasn't just sex, David. I was lonely. I let out a bitter laugh. Lonely? I work my ass off every day to give you and the kids a good life, and you were lonely. She nodded desperately. You weren't there for me. You were always busy, always tired, and John, he listened to me. Oh, I bet he did, I said coldly. Right before he took your clothes off. She broke down, hands shaking. David, I love you. I never stopped. Please, we can fix this. I took a deep breath, forcing myself to stay calm. Sally, I will never trust you again. I will never look at you the same way again. And I sure as hell will never love you again. She shook her head violently. You don't mean that. You're just hurt. We can go to therapy, we can work on this. I stared at her. Would you forgive me if I did this to you? She opened her mouth. Hesitated. Then, silence. Yeah. Thought so. I stepped past her, heading toward the kitchen. You can pack your things or I'll do it for you. Either way, you're leaving. And for the first time in weeks, I felt like I could breathe. I thought she'd listen. I thought she'd have the decency to leave, at least for a few days. Give me space. Let me breathe. But no. Sally didn't go anywhere. Instead, she followed me into the kitchen, still crying, still begging. David, please. Where am I supposed to go? I opened the fridge, grabbed a bottle of water, and took a slow sip before answering. I don't care. She flinched like I'd slapped her. What about the kids? That made me pause. I hadn't thought that far yet. My brain was still too wrapped up in the betrayal, in the rage. But she was right about one thing: we had kids. And as much as I hated her right now, I wasn't about to let this turn into a screaming match in front of them. I clenched my jaw. The kids stay here. Her eyes widened. No, David. No way. You can't just. This is their home. My voice was ice. I'm not ripping them out of their lives because you couldn't keep your legs closed. She gasped, eyes brimming with fresh tears. That's not fair. I laughed. Actually laughed. Oh, fair? You want to talk about fair? Was it fair when you snuck off to screw John while I was busting my ass at work? Was it fair when you made me look like a fool in front of our friends? Was it fair when you lied to my face every single day? Sally shrank back, pressing a hand to her mouth. I didn't mean to hurt you. I shook my head. You didn't care if you hurt me. Silence. For a second, I thought maybe, she was finally getting it. Then she looked up at me with those big, wet, desperate eyes. Can't we at least try? I exhaled sharply. Sally, you need to leave. Just for a few days. Go to Debbie's. Go to a hotel. I don't care where, but you can't stay here. She shook her head violently. No. This is my home too. I have a right to be here. My hands curled into fists. I could feel it slipping, my patience, my self-control. I'd spent years building a life with this woman, trusting her, loving her, and now she was standing here, acting like she was the victim. I grabbed my phone. Her eyes widened. What are you doing? I scrolled through my contacts. Calling Lisa. I'm sure she'd love to come over and compare notes. No, David, don't. I hit dial. Sally lunged for the phone, trying to snatch it from my hands. I yanked it away, stepping back. Don't touch me, I snapped. She froze. Her breath hitched. And for the first time, I saw it, realization. Fear. She knew she'd lost. I put the phone to my ear, heart pounding as the dial tone rang. Sally just stood there, eyes darting between me and the front door. Like she was finally considering running, stood there, phone to my ear, waiting for Lisa to pick up. Sally was staring at me like a cornered animal, her breath coming in quick, shaky gasps. The moment Lisa answered, "Hello?" Sally snapped. She lunged. Not for me. For the phone. She smacked it right out of my hand, and it clattered to the floor. The hell is wrong with you? I barked, shoving her away. I can't let you do this, she stammered, eyes wild. I bent down to grab my phone, but before I could, she kicked it across the kitchen floor. I turned to her slowly, breathing through my nose to keep from losing it. Sally's hands were shaking, but her face was set. David, please, she whispered. Just talk to me. Not Lisa. Not anyone else. Just us. I clenched my jaw so hard I thought my teeth might crack. You lost the right to ask that. Her lip trembled. But I love you. I laughed, shaking my head. No, Sally. You love that you got caught. That's what this is. Tears spilled down her cheeks. No. That's not true. I stepped back, running a hand down my face. I was so done. So damn done. You need to leave. My voice was cold. Right now. She just stood there, crying, shaking her head. I don't have anywhere to go. Not my problem. She let out a choked sob. David, please. I turned away, heading for my phone. I was done talking. Done listening. Then, Sally played her last, desperate card. If you make me leave, she whispered, I'll tell the kids everything. I froze. Slowly, I turned back to her. What? She swallowed hard. I'll tell them why you're kicking me out. That you don't love me anymore. That you don't want to be a family. My vision went red. You dragged the kids into this? I hissed. Her lip trembled. I don't want to, but you're forcing me. I stepped closer, lowering my voice. You tell them one word before I do. I swear to God, Sally, I'll make sure they know exactly what kind of mother you are. She sucked in a sharp breath. You wouldn't. Try me. Silence. We stared at each other, the air thick with something ugly. Finally, she looked away, wiping her tears. "Fine," she whispered. "I'll go." I exhaled, my whole body shaking with rage. "Good." She turned and walked toward the stairs. But something in me knew this wasn't over. Not by a long shot, I didn't trust it. Sally giving up just like that? After all her begging, her excuses, her pathetic attempts to guilt me? No way. It was too easy. So when she went upstairs, I didn't relax. I didn't let my guard down. I waited. A few minutes later, I heard movement. Drawers opening, the closet door creaking. It sounded like she was packing. But my gut told me something else. I moved quietly, stepping out of the kitchen, making my way toward the stairs. Her door was cracked open, just enough for me to see inside. And what was she doing? Not packing. Calling someone. I couldn't hear much at first, just whispers. But then, clear as day, I heard name. John. I gritted my teeth. Sally's voice was desperate, rushed. "He's serious, John. He's really making me leave." A pause. "No," I tried. I told him I had nowhere to go, but he doesn't care. I leaned against the wall, listening. What if I just stay? What can he really do? Oh, so that's her game. She wasn't surrendering. She was stalling, trying to figure out how to worm her way out of this. Then she said something that made my blood run cold. If I tell him I'll fight for the house, maybe he'll back down. I clenched my fists. "Oh, you think so?" I turned around and walked straight to my office. Grabbed the envelope I had prepared the night before. A copy of the house deed, with my name on it. I wasn't backing down. Not now. Not ever. 15 minutes later, she came downstairs, her face all red and puffy like she'd been crying. Her bag was slung over her shoulder, but I noticed something. She was only holding her purse. Not a suitcase. Not even an overnight bag. She had no intention of really leaving. I held up the envelope. "Before you say anything, read this." She hesitated. "What is it?" "Proof that you don't own this house." Her face dropped. I handed her the papers, watching as her eyes scanned the page. Her hands started shaking. But we bought this place together." I cut her off. "No, I bought it. My money. My name on the paperwork. You signed a prenup, Sally. You don't get the house." Her breath hitched. "David. I suggest you figure out a new plan," I said coldly. "Because you're not staying here." Tears spilled down her cheeks. "You really hate me that much?" I met her eyes, feeling nothing. "I don't hate you, Sally." I took a step closer. "I pity you." She let out a small, broken sob. But I didn't care. She had lost. Now she just had to accept it. Sally stood there, holding the deed in her shaking hands, tears running down her face. But I wasn't moved. Not anymore. She had played her last card, tried to guilt me, tried to stall, tried to make me second-guess myself. And when that didn't work, she tried to use the house as leverage. She thought she could manipulate me into letting her stay. She was wrong. Her breath hitched. "Where am I supposed to go, David?" I shrugged. "That's not my problem." She swallowed hard, looking around like she was searching for some kind of escape. Then she dropped her voice, trying one last angle. "What about the kids?" she whispered. That did it. That pushed me. I stepped closer, lowering my voice so it came out ice cold. "You don't get to play the mother card now, Sally. If you cared about them so much, you wouldn't have done this in the first place." She winced like I'd hit her. "Good." I backed off, nodding toward the door. "Go. You need a ride." She let out a small, broken breath. "I'll call someone." I already knew who. So I leaned against the counter and folded my arms. "Go ahead, then. Call him." Her eyes flicked up to mine, wide with shock. "Call John," I said, keeping my voice even. "Isn't that the plan?" Her lips trembled. I don't. "Save it, Sally." I nodded toward her phone. "Go ahead. Call your boyfriend. Let's see if he still wants you now that Lisa's gone and your marriage is destroyed." She hesitated. Then, without another word, she reached into her bag, pulled out her phone, and turned her back to me as she dialed. I just watched. She kept her voice low, but I still caught some of it. "Yeah, it's me." I need to stay somewhere for a few days. No, he won't let me. A long pause. Then softer, almost embarrassed. Can I come over? I almost laughed. Imagine that. Leaving your husband for your affair partner, only to be kicked out like some stray. After a few more seconds, she nodded to herself and ended the call. She turned back to me, eyes wet and ashamed. John's coming. I just smirked. Of course he is. 10 minutes later, John's truck pulled up outside. I didn't go to the door. Didn't help her carry anything. I just sat on the couch, drinking my coffee, watching from the window as she hesitated on the porch. Then I saw him. John. He stepped out of the truck, rubbing the back of his neck, looking nervous as hell. Not excited. Not relieved. Nervous. Oh, this was gonna be good. Sally walked up to him, her arms crossed, looking small and vulnerable. She said something. He nodded. Then, after a long pause, he gestured to the back seat instead of the passenger side. I nearly choked on my coffee. Even after everything, after ruining 2 marriages, after destroying everything in their wake, John wasn't even letting her sit in the front seat. I grinned to myself. Reality was hitting her. Fast. She hesitated for another second, then climbed into the back like a scolded dog. John shut the door, glanced toward the house, and for a brief moment, our eyes met through the window. He looked away first. Then he got in the truck and drove off. And just like that, she was gone. The moment Sally disappeared down the road in John's truck, I felt something I hadn't in weeks. Relief. No more fake smiles. No more sneaking around. No more lies. She was gone. I sat there for a while, sipping my coffee, staring at the empty street. I knew this wasn't the end. There'd be more to deal with: divorce, custody, the kids. But for now, I could breathe. Sally lasted 3 days at John's place. I expected longer, but honestly, I wasn't surprised. It started with a text from Lisa. Lisa, you're not going to believe this. I called her immediately. She didn't even say hello. Just laughed, a sharp, bitter sound. She's already out. I blinked. Wait, what? Sally. John kicked her out. I sat up. You're joking. Nope. She called me last night, crying her eyes out. I couldn't help it, I laughed. Loud. Oh, that's rich. Lisa huffed. Apparently, things weren't as fun when they weren't sneaking around behind our backs. John wasn't so sweet when he had to actually live with her. I shook my head, grinning. So what happened? Lisa sighed. Same old story. He started getting cold. Distant. He was still texting other women. Guess he wasn't as in love with her as she thought. Then last night, they had a fight. She accused him of not caring about her, and she let out a short, sharp breath. Told her straight up that she wasn't his forever plan. I whistled low. Damn. Yeah. He told her she needed to figure something out, and basically dumped her on the spot. I shook my head. So where is she now? Lisa snorted. Hotel, I think. She called Debbie, but even she wouldn't let her stay over. That actually shocked me. Debbie was Sally's best friend. If she wasn't offering a couch, Sally must have really screwed up. Lisa sighed. I shouldn't be laughing, but, after everything? I just can't feel bad for her. I smiled, leaning back in my chair. Don't. She did this to herself. Silence stretched between us for a moment. Then Lisa spoke, softer. How are you holding up? I hesitated. How was I? Better. Still angry. Still hurt. But lighter. I'm all right, I said honestly. Better than her. Lisa let out a small chuckle. Yeah. You definitely got the better end of this. We talked a little longer, mostly about legal stuff, divorce, assets, custody. We were both on the same page. She wanted nothing to do with John, just like I wanted nothing to do with Sally. By the time we hung up, one thing was clear: Sally's perfect little fantasy had already come crashing down. And I wasn't about to catch her when she fell. I knew Sally wasn't done. She might have been humiliated, might have lost everything, but she wasn't the type to just accept it and move on. So when she showed up at the house a week later, I wasn't surprised. I heard the knock at the door and ignored it at first. But then, David, please. I let out a slow breath, stood up, and opened the door. She looked rough. Bags under her eyes, face pale, hair in a messy ponytail. She wasn't wearing makeup, something she never did before. For the first time, I saw her for what she really was. Small. Weak. Pathetic. She tried to smile. "Hey." I leaned against the doorframe. "What do you want, Sally?" Her eyes welled up instantly. "I don't know what to do," she whispered. "John, she swallowed hard. "He kicked me out, David. I have nowhere to go." I just stared. She shifted on her feet. I miss the kids. I miss you." I let out a short, bitter laugh. "You miss me? That's rich." Tears spilled over. "I do." "I wasn't thinking." She let out a shaky breath. "I made a mistake." I tilted my head. "A mistake?" She nodded quickly, sniffling. "Yes. I got caught up in something stupid, and I regret it so much. You have no idea how sorry I am." I crossed my arms. "You weren't sorry when you were sneaking out of bed. You weren't sorry when you were texting him while sitting next to me on the couch. You weren't sorry when you were in his truck." She opened her mouth, but I didn't let her speak. "You're not sorry for what you did," I said coldly. "You're sorry because you lost. Because John didn't want you. Because you burned your life down, and now you have to live in the ashes." She let out a choked sob, covering her mouth. "David, please," she whispered. "I love you." I sighed. "Sally, I don't care." Her breath caught. I leaned in slightly, dropping my voice. "You made your choice. And now you get to live with it." She reached for me, but I stepped back, shaking my head. Then I turned and shut the door in her face. I locked it. Stood there, listening to her cry for a few minutes. And then? She left. And I felt nothing. I didn't watch her leave. Didn't peek through the window, didn't stand by the door listening for her footsteps. I just walked to the kitchen, poured myself a cup of coffee, and sat down. And for the first time in weeks, maybe months, I felt at peace. Sally was gone. For good this time. No more lies. No more sneaking around. No more pretending. Just silence. And freedom. The divorce was fast. She didn't fight me on the house. She couldn't, not with the prenup. She tried to push for more time with the kids, but I made it clear that they stayed with me. And surprisingly, she didn't put up much of a fight. Maybe she was too ashamed. Maybe she was just exhausted. Or maybe, deep down, she knew she didn't deserve to win. She moved in with her sister across town. I didn't care. As long as she was out of my life, she could be anywhere. John? Last I heard, he was single, jobless, and drowning in debt after Lisa wiped him clean in their divorce. She took the house, the savings, even his dog. I'd be lying if I said I didn't love that. Lisa and I kept in touch for a while. We grabbed a drink here and there, mostly just to vent about the disaster we both went through. People kept hinting that we should get together, but it wasn't like that. We were just two people who understood each other. And honestly, I wasn't in a rush to jump into anything new. I had my life to rebuild. My kids to focus on. And for the first time in a long, long time, I was happy. One day, months later, I got a text from an unknown number. "Unknown, I think about you every day. I miss you." I stared at it for a long moment. Then I blocked the number and went back to my life. Because Sally was nothing to me now. And I was finally, completely free.